Welcome everybody to the annual council meeting, including members, officers, members of the public attending physically or remotely. I seem to have an echo. That's better. Please be advised that the meeting will be live streamed and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. The following staff are in attendance: the Chief Executive, Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal Partnership and Democratic Services. Agenda item 1, the emergency evacuation procedure. There is no scheduled test of the fire alarm, and if the fire alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly using the doors signed as fire escapes, and assemble in the car park at the front of the building and await instructions. If there is anybody in attendance that might require assistance in evacuating the building, please make yourself known. That's good, thank you very much. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence.
Chair, Mr. Mayor, we've received apologies from Councillors Roger Clark, Councillor James Hall, Councillor Anne Hampshire and Councillor Eddie Thomas.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, minutes. Do members approve the minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 26th of May 2021, minutes numbers 1 to 14, the full council meeting held on the 30th of March 2022, minute numbers 732 to 741, and of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 27th of April 2022, minute numbers 766 770 as a correct record. Thank you, members. Agenda item 4, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare? Councillor Martin.
Non-pecuniary item 11, I'm a trustee of Benstead Charities.
Thank you.
Same for me, thank you.
Right. Anyone else?
Chair. The same as for me as well.
Okay. Is going to be anybody left? Okay. I'm so pleased. Right. Agenda item 6, the forthcoming mayoral year. No, 5. Where's 5 gone then?
Don't want another year, do you?
Oh yeah, why not? Right, thank you. I've got a stapled version now, that's better. Yeah, too many pages, not enough staples. Right. Right. Yes. Agenda item 5, which is the appointment of mayor. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of mayor for the forthcoming civic year. The decision to appoint a mayor-elect was taken at the council meeting on the 24th of February 2022, where it was resolved that Councillor Simon Clark be elected mayor for the civic year of 2022 to 2023. And I would like to invite Councillor Roger Truelove to give a short speech in support of Councillor Clark's appointment.
Was the emphasis on short, Mr. Mayor?
As usual.
Yes, as usual, all right. Well, anyway, look, we did the bio on him when we actually elected him. So Angela and I have done all that, subtitled Fun on a Lorry, basically, was what it was about. the mayoralty is about pride, isn't it? It's we have a mayor so we can channel the pride that we've all got in Swale, and by Swale I mean Swale and not Swale Borough Council, into an individual. So it's a pride thing, but clearly it's also a matter of great pride to whoever is actually elected to be a mayor, particularly if you're a Swalian. And I don't know how many of you here are Swalians, by which I mean somebody who's born here, went to school here, has lived here, worked here, and basically has never left the borough for anything. So Simon is particularly proud to be the mayor of Swale. And in the Labour Party, we're particularly proud of him too. So for 20 years, we've had one Labour mayor, because for such a long time, we had the partisan, pretty petty-minded business of retaining it permanently in one party. Well, thankfully, that has ended because it was so unnecessary. And I'm glad that over the last 3 years, we've had 3 different mayors. One of them's had 2 years and appeared to want to have a third. So we have managed to share it out amongst other people. Simon is very much Labour. He's been a Labour member, I think, for 30 years. He's often been the chair of the constituency Labour Party. Now, I know being chair of the constituency Labour Party is not the same as chairing council meetings. It's much harder. But nevertheless, you'll find that Simon will be a very firm chair. Fair as well, but definitely firm. You'll know that if you were one of those who got chastised for trying to pinch a pint of beer at the Sheerness East meeting that we had. And last I said, if you want to get to know Simon better, there's a don't and a do. Don't ask him what his favourite football team is, because he actually despises footballers. But do ask him about high performance cars, because you'll certainly get his interest there. Simon will be a good ambassador for Swale. He will do it with enthusiasm and decorum. And most of all, I'd say to him, enjoy it. So I'm proposing him, but we've already done that, haven't we?
Thank you, Councillor Truelove. I would like to invite Councillor Angela Harrison to give a short speech to second Councillor Clark's appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and that wasn't short, by the way. I really don't. We've done it. I've done my bit. I did my speech. I did the joke and all the rest of it. Even if I've changed my mind, it's too late, because we've made our decision. I think Simon is going to make a very good mayor. So I'm quite happy to second, except I don't need to because the decision's already been made. But, good luck for the year, Si.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I can now confirm that Councillor Simon Clark has been appointed as Mayor of the civic year 22-23. I will now remove my badge of office and we will adjourn for robing. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, if you haven't already and you wish to do so, please remove your jackets. Right, agenda item 6, forthcoming mayoral year.
No, we know that. Okay. I invite the Mayor, Councillor Simon Clark, to read out and sign your declaration and acceptance of office.
I, Simon Clark, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the Council of the Borough of Swale, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code which is expected of members of Swale Borough Council. Right, item 6 then, the forthcoming mayoral year. I won't take too long of your time, but who'd have thought it? From growing up in a completely apolitical household in the village of Worms Hill, to be selected and elected by my peers to represent the Borough of Swale as its mayor is not something I ever thought possible. If my parents were alive today, they would be absolutely astonished at what I've managed to achieve despite some exceptionally difficult times in my life, but I believe they would be immensely proud of their youngest son. I have some big shoes to fill in the role of mayor, as the picture gallery of past mayors on the wall outside the chamber will attest. In my mayoral year, I will endeavour to represent the office of Mayor of the Borough of Swale with the pride and dignity, and to attend as many events as possible, and where events clash, to rely on my Deputy Mayor to attend in my stead. I intend to chair full council meetings with fairness and good grace. And finally, members, during the year, I will organise some events to raise money for charities. My charities for the year will be Porchlight and Live Well Kent. Both those charities have been a big help to me in the past, and I feel that this is my chance to give something back to them. And that's really all I've got to say. Thank you. Agenda item 7. Thanks to the retiring mayor, I call upon the leader of the council, Councillor Mike Baldock, to propose a vote of thanks to the retiring mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment, a well-deserved appointment. I'd like to pay tribute to our outgoing mayor, Councillor Paul Stephen. A few years ago, I was campaigning, and obviously about housing, and Sarah volunteered, Councillor Stephen volunteered to help me, and I thought, right, next step, get her to stand. And then she kindly persuaded her husband to stand as well, and he beat her by about 12 votes, which I think gave him a little bit of a recovery from being forced into standing. And then to think, you know, a new boy, a year later, thrown in at the deep end, he became the mayor. And I think the way that Paul carried out his duties, especially in those first 2 years, when most of it was on Zoom or back in the good old days, Skype, because I could at least work that one. Oh no, it's Teams now, isn't it? So, you know, it was disappointing for him that he couldn't get out, and of course disappointing for a lot of the groups that enjoy having a mayor coming along, looking at the medals, sorry, chain, and I think it's a shame that that has been lost a little over the 2 years, and I hope that that is something that, you know, voluntary groups do start to remember they can have the mayor back again, because it is important. And Paul's carried out his duties with charm, courtesy, and a good nature. He's chaired these meetings well, even during frustrating periods when we didn't always entirely know what we were doing. And his humour helped carry us through. I know he's going to give a speech in a minute, so I don't want to go over his highlights because they'll be his. But I will say, you know, he's done a lot of good work and he's been involved with the Raybell. But one of the personal highlights for me was when he made our Fox ambassador for Swale at the Maypole Inn. Foxy has been doing good work ever since. And opening, of course, his tenure with, I think, a welcome but controversial decision to recognise that there are many different religions and many different faiths, and indeed no faiths, in our borough. And that was reflected in one of his early decisions. And I thought that was very brave. And I think, Paul, congratulations. You've been a true ambassador for Swale in your 2 years. And I know that in your new role, you'll continue to give full support. Thank you.
I call upon the Deputy Leader, Councillor Monique Bonney, to second the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I won't go on too much, but I can say that as Councillor Paul Stevens in his role as Mayor, I think it's an unprecedented time we had, and to be chairing meetings and to hold that role during that time, I think deserves huge congratulations on chairing it with aplomb and decorum and decency during those very tough times. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. I now would like to ask the retiring Mayor and Mayoress. I would ask the retiring Mayor and Mayoress to come to the front of the top table, and I will present the retiring Mayor, Councillor Paul Stevens, with a civic shield and scroll and past Mayor's badge, mementos of his term in office, and flowers for Councillor Sarah Stevens. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of Deputy Mayor for the forthcoming civic year. The decision... Oh, sorry. Getting ahead of myself again, trying to get the meeting over. I invite the retiring Mayor to give a speech. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a long time since I've said that. My time as mayor started later than usual back in June 2020 due to COVID. I classed myself as a virtual mayor, only to be found buried deep in the depths of the World Wide Web, having only to converse with many photos on a screen. Was I fortunate or not? Was it easier or not? Neither of which mattered, as it was how it had to be. And after a few meetings, we all got the hang of it and performed our duties as councillors, giving our best to the residents of Swale. I could not have achieved any of this without the help of Democratic Services team, our legal department, and most of all, the Madam Mayoress, who was there to deal with the many chat lists whilst I was chairing the council meeting. Without her, many of you would not have been able to speak. It was not the start I had envisaged, as instead of meeting people face to face, I had to resort to video conferencing, audio messaging, filming interviews, and to be shown as webcasts to various groups. Moving on to the end of 2021, big step that one, I was able to move from virtuality to reality and actually get to meet those elusive people that inhabited our borough. It was not until then that I thought of myself as a mayor and took the opportunity to meet, greet and talk to as many people as I could. It was a great pleasure to support many voluntary organisations and charities during my mayorship and help link people and organisations with others that could help them achieve their objectives. Life became very busy at the end of 2021 to the present day, with more and more events to attend. As mayor, I was pleased to support and raise funds for MS Swale and Citizens Advice Swale. I will continue to support both after today, as I feel both do great work for our community. I've attended a very diverse series of events, all of which gave me greater awareness of what people are doing to help others and what is still needed to be done to keep helping them. Finally, I would like to welcome Councillor Simon Clark as new Mayor of Swale, and may he enjoy the honour as much as I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, now I can move on to agenda item 8. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of Deputy Mayor for the following forthcoming civic year. The decision to appoint a Deputy Mayor-elect was taken at the full council meeting on the 24th of February 2022, where it was resolved that Councillor Sarah Stephen be elected Deputy Mayor for the civic year 2022-23. I invite the Leader of the Council, Councillor Mike Baldock, to give a short speech in support of Councillor Sarah Stephen's appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have been here already, as Councillor Truelove said earlier, but I'd like to just say I think that Sarah has been an expert, an excellent, I've got to get the words right here, Mayor consort. She's shown enthusiasm and energy throughout the 2 years and has gained experience in that time of working with the our community sector and all the different groups across Swale. And I think she'll be an absolutely brilliant deputy mayor. And all I'd say to her is, remember in future, it's Paul that gets the flowers.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I would like now to invite the Deputy Leader, Councillor Monique Bonney, to give a short speech to second Councillor Sarah Stephen's appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second the appointment of Councillor Sarah Stephen. She has been a very loyal deputy for the last 3 years in my cabinet role, and she's proved herself to be a very good vice chair in that role. So I think as a deputy mayor, I think she'd be superb. Not only has she had the experience of shadowing Paul for the last 2 years, but she's shown a real commitment and passion for her local communities and an eagerness to step in where necessary. She's also got the zest and warmth that you would expect a deputy mayor to have. So I wholeheartedly second the appointment.
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. I can confirm that Councillor Sarah Stephen has been appointed as Deputy Mayor for the civic year 2022 to 2023.
I invite Councillor Sarah Stephen to read out and sign the declaration of acceptance of office.
I, Sarah Stephen, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Council of the Borough of Swale, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code which is expected of members of Swale Borough Council.
Right, so moving on, members, to agenda item number 9, establishment of committees and their terms of reference. I invite Councillor Baldock to present the report and propose the recommendation. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is the start of our exciting new venture into the committee system. There's not a lot to say other than please support this. Otherwise, we will be in real difficulties doing any business. So please support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I invite Councillor Horton to second the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment. I am delighted to second this proposal. It's a bit deja vu, this, because it's the third time I've stood up and seconded a proposal about us getting on with the business of being a far more effective, efficient and member-involved council. I commend this report and I can't imagine that any of you are going to want to say anything further about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Right. I now invite members to speak on this agenda item. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. I'm not going to vote against it. Can I ask, is this a live document that we will, as and when issues come up, it can be looked at? Because I don't see the point in waiting another 30 years to actually look at Constitution. I think if we find glitches, they need to be resolved, and not, oh gosh, we've got to wait another year till it's annual council or whatever, but we can get on and sort them out. Is that the way you're hoping to go?
Councillor Baldock.
Thank you. I can assure you that the Constitution is a living document, and those of us that are somehow still on the Constitution working group haven't found the exit route yet, and we'll be there for another year at least. So yeah, we'll be doing it.
Any further questions or comments, members? In that case, then I invite Councillor Baldock to sum up if he wishes. I now ask members if they agree with the recommendation by a show of hands. All those in favour? think that's unanimous. Thank you, members. And finally, I can confirm that the recommendation has been agreed. Moving on then to agenda item number 10, allocation of seats and committee appointments for 2022-23. The next item is the allocation of seats and committee appointments for 2022-23. There are more proposals than seats on the Swale JTB, so a vote will be required before voting on recommendation 3. Yeah. Okay. I now invite Councillor Baldock to propose the 3 recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will confirm that I did check the calculations extensively, added things up, entered all sorts of things into the calculator, and I couldn't find them to be wrong. So I'm happy to agree to move recommendation 1 and 2, and number 3 when we get to it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I invite Councillor Bonney to second the recommendation. You may speak now or reserve your right, Councillor Bonney.
I'll speak now. Not happy to second this item.
I now invite Councillor Horton to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got nothing to say on this one. I may wish to come back and speak on the next part, if that's okay. Unless I need to speak now. Okay, well, we seem to have 2 different lists. We've got a list with 8 possible names on it for the JTB and a printed list with 7 possible names on it. It's the list with 8. Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted the clarification.
Members, I have a list of names in front of me here. I will read those out when we get to recommendation 3, but if we can take recommendations 1 and 2 first. Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, I do represent Calc on the JTB, and I'd be quite happy to remove my name from the list, so it wouldn't need to have a vote.
Thank you for that, Councillor MacDonald. We'll once we've done 1 and 2, then we'll come to that when I read out the list for 3. Thank you. Right, thank you, members. I've just received some advice. I'll take the vote now on recommendations 1 and 2. And as we now only have 7 names for the 7 positions on recommendation 3, there's no need to take a vote on that. But we will need to take a vote on the actual recommendation 3. Right. So we'll take recommendations 1, 2 and 3 all together. All those in favour of recommendations 1, 2 and 3? It's unanimous. Thank you, members.
Oh, sorry.
My apologies, Councillor Baird. 1 abstention. Right, moving swiftly on then, members. Agenda item 11. Borough Council's nominations to outside bodies, trusts administered by Swale Borough Council and statutory bodies. Appendix 1 was circulated earlier today, which set out the nominations received from group leaders. There are more proposals than nominations for outside bodies, so a vote will be required for each body, following which we will vote on the recommendation. I'd like to ask Councillor Baldock to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council is asked to agree Borough Council nominations to outside bodies, trusts administered by Swale Borough Council and statutory bodies. I will say I don't agree with the way that this has been done, and that some bodies are being separated off to the committees to nominate. I think that's something I wouldn't like to see, but that is what we've been advised to do, and consequently that is what we're having to do. So I will move the recommendation as it stands. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. And I'd like to invite Councillor Bonney to second the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I second the recommendation. I'm not reserving my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. Now I invite Councillor Horton to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Leader and Deputy Leader, for proposing and seconding these recommendations. This is an opportunity. There is an opportunity here to walk the talk and actually put the right people to the committees based on their skills, irrespective of their political denomination. This is about doing the best for the council, not what has traditionally been the tribal warfare across this room. This is the first opportunity we get to show that we mean what we say. I just ask you to reflect on that when you cast your votes. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. I now open up the debate to members. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure how you're going to do all these lists, because you've got to go through the lists in order to agree that the report in the first place. But on the list, on page 1, if I've got the right ones, Kent and Medway Health and Wellbeing Board. It's got lines through it. I can't recall us ever having agreed to that, to be perfectly frank, because I was under the impression it was created during the pandemic, and it was the membership of the Kent Health and Wellbeing Board and the Medway Health and Wellbeing Board came together as the joint board to deal with issues during the pandemic. And yes, the joint board is no longer required. So, but it was the Kent Health and Wellbeing Board that we originally made a nomination to, which it obviously isn't here.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. That's the advice we've received, and that's what's in the papers.
I beg to differ, Mr. Mayor, because the Kent Health and Wellbeing Board is still in existence. It meets on a regular basis, and I was put forward to sit on it. Indeed, there's a meeting next week, which I have been invited to. And I did write and notify the officers of this particular concern well in advance of this meeting.
If I could ask Mr. Clifford to give the advice that I've just received.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So we'll have to look at this obviously outside the council meeting, but I think Councillor Harrison, as the current appointee, you remain the appointee. So you're free to attend that meeting, obviously, and we might have to take it back to a subsequent council meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not entirely sure of the process which we're embarking upon, but I'd like to speak in favour of Honorary Alderman Anita Walker for the Bensters charity. We heard earlier about Swaleys. Well, Anita's a Favy, born in Faversham, went to school in Faversham, worked in Faversham, lives in Faversham, knows Faversham through and through. And I think she's done, my understanding is that she's done a very good job on Bensters Charities, and I'd like to hope that we could vote so that she can continue in that post. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. Members, anyone else? Okay, thank you. No other members have indicated. I'd like to invite Councillor Baldock to sum up. Sorry, oh yeah, okay. So it's confused me because I got that on page 10 and 11. Right, to advise members on how the voting contested nominations will be conducted, please feel free to ask Mr. Clifford to do this. Well, okay, sorry, I'm reading it. I knew I'd make one cock up to this evening. Right, as on item 10, where there were more members proposed than there are nominations to be filled, the name of each proposed member will be read out in alphabetical order, and members will be asked whether their vote is for or against that member by a show of hands. Once the proposed member has been voted on, the member or members with the least number of votes will be removed from the list. If there are still more proposed members than nomination, the process will be repeated until the number of proposed members equals the number of nominations. Right. Okay, let's get my... Okay, members, we will now start with Action and Communities in Rural Kent. There are 3 nominations. 4 nominations.
So there's 3 places.
There's 3 places, but there are 4 nominations.
Sorry, point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point for clarification, I know we asked this probably most years, but again through David, can I just check that in terms of the voting, we can vote for more than one of the candidates? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Okay, so I read out the first name. Right. The 4 candidates are Councillor David Simmons, Councillor Ken Ingleton, Councillor Mike Dendor and Councillor Monique Bonney. Right, so can I have a show of hands for Councillor David Simmons? Thank you, members. And any against? Any abstentions? Three abstentions. Right. Now, those in favour of Councillor Ken Ingleton? Thank you, members. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Mike Dendor? Those against? Right. Okay, and finally, those in favour of Councillor Bonney? Thank you, members. So, following that first vote, Councillor Dendor has been eliminated. So we have our three members for the Action with Communities in Rural Kent. The next appointment is to Benstead Charities at Faversham. There is one place. We have two nominations. Councillor Eddie Thomas and Alderwoman Anita Walker. Those in favour of Councillor Eddie Thomas? And those in favour of Alderwoman Anita Walker? So Alderwoman Anita Walker has been eliminated, therefore the nomination for Councillor Eddie Thomas onto the Benstead Charities. And following on, Swale, Citizen Vice Service Swale, formerly CAB. There are three places, but we have 6 nominations. Those are Councillor Peter Marchington, Councillor Nicholas Hampshire, Councillor Mike Dendor, Councillor Hannah Perkin, Councillor Paul Stephen and Councillor Tim Gibson. So firstly, all those in favour of Councillor Peter Marchington? In answer to your question, Councillor Henderson, I'm reading them out as I've got them on my paper in front of me. Right. Okay, all those in favour of Councillor Nicholas Hampshire? Those in favour of Councillor Mike Dendall? Those in favour of Councillor Hannah Perkin? Thank you, members. Those in favour of Councillor Paul Stephen? And finally, for citizen advice, Councillor Tim Gibson.
At least it's not like it was when we were in lockdown and had to do it, going around the room and saying yes or no.
So after the first round of voting, Councillor Mike Dendall has been eliminated. Right, so again for Councillor Peter Marchington. Right. And for Councillor Nicholas Hampshire. For Councillor Hannah Perkin. Okay. Councillor Paul Stephen. And for Councillor Tim Gibson. Right, so following those votes, Councillor Marchington and Councillor Hampshire received the same amount of votes, so are both eliminated. And those select. So the nominees for the CAB are for Councillor Perkin, Councillor Stephen and Councillor Gibson. Right, moving on then to the Council for Voluntary Services, CVS. Again, there are 3 positions and we have 6 nominations. So we'll start. Those in favour of Councillor Dendor. Oh, sorry. Oh, my apologies, members. I'll read all the nominations out first. We have Councillor Dendor, Councillor Baird, Councillor Neal, Councillor Sarah Stephen, Councillor Ken Rolls and Councillor Lee McCall. So, as before, Councillor Dendor, please. Those in favour of Councillor Baird? Those in favour of Councillor Sarah Stephen? In favour of Councillor Ken Rolls? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Lee McCall? So after the first round of votes, Councillor Baird has been eliminated. Right, so again, count those in favour of Councillor Dendor. That was a struggle, Councillor Baird. Okay. And those in favour of Councillor Pete Neal. Right. Members, can you put your hands down for just one moment, please? Right. Right. If I could ask members, when they're voting for a particular candidate, if you could raise your hands clearly, and once the vote has been taken, please lower your hands because it is getting confusing. Some people are leaving their hands up for candidate after candidate. Right, so we'll go again for those in favour of Councillor Pete Neal. Right, thank you, members. Those in favour of Councillor Sarah Stephen? Thank you. Those in favour of Councillor Ken Rolls? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Lee McCall?
So it's fine. Yeah. So Councillor Dendell, Councillor Dendell's eliminated. One more.
Sorry, Councillor Dendell, after that round of votes, you are eliminated. Right, so we move on again then. Those in favour of Councillor Pete Neal? Use the other one. Okay. Those in favour of Councillor Sarah Stephen? Councillor Ken Rolls? And right, thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Lee McCall? Right, so after that round of voting, Councillor Neal has been eliminated. So therefore, the three elected for Swale CVS are Councillor Sarah Stephen, Councillor Ken Rolls and Councillor Lee McCall. Moving on then to the Lower Medway Internal Drainage Board, everyone's favourite. We have 6 places, but we have 9 nominations. Sorry, Councillor Bone.
In the interest of trying to speed this up a little bit, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to withdraw my nomination for the Lower Medway Internal Drainage Board, and I'll put my teeth back in afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Bone. Councillor Horton.
Mr. Mayor, I too will withdraw my nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor Bett? Thank you. Right, thank you for your withdrawal. So that leaves Councillor Ken Ingleton, Pete Marchington, Councillor James Hunt, Councillor Richard Palmer, Councillor Derek Carnell and Councillor Monique Bonney. Councillor Harrison.
I'm trying to remember the email which my leader sent on Monday for Councillor Rolls on the LMIDB, which has translated in this paperwork to or gunpowder works. So I'm just wondering, you know what I think about the old ether, but transposing, you know, nominations from one committee to another is a new one even for me. He might tell me that I read it completely wrong. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely correct. I did send an email to Democratic Services saying that the nomination that I'd made for Councillor Rolls to be on the Medway Draining Board had actually been transposed into the Orr Gunpowder Works, and I made it clear that that wasn't my intention. I intended that Councillor Rolls should be considered for the Lower Medway Internal Drainage Board and not for the Orr, and I notified that on Monday.
Thank you, Councillor Trudeau. So unfortunately, members, we now move back to a vote because we have one more nomination than we have place. And so to Councillor Bett, Councillor Bowen and Councillor Horton, is it your wish that you still... Thank you very much. Right, so in this instance then we do have seven nominations for 6 places. So we have...
Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Councillor
Sorry,
Hunt.
I'm happy to withdraw my name from it and then there's no need for the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. So we now, those appointed to the LMIDB are Councillor Ingleton, Councillor Marchington, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Carnell, Councillor Bonney and Councillor Rolls. Thank you. We move on now to the Orr Gunpowder Works Advisory Group. We have Councillor Bett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we prepared our list, the Medway Maritime Hospital was not on there, and it has come out subsequently, and I believe we are still allowed to make a nomination. So I would like to nominate Councillor Pete Neal.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Right, so what we've got to do Gunpowder Works.
Gunpowder Works, so that one comes off. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 places.
Right, okay. Right, so we'll take that one afterwards. So we go back to the original as I have on papers for the Orr Gunpowder Works. So we have Councillor Whiting, Councillor Bowen, Councillor Anne Hampshire and Councillor Eddie Thomas. So Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will politely withdraw from this again to say speed things, otherwise we're going to be here till Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. So the Orr Gunpowder Advisory Works, those selected are Councillor Whiting, Councillor Anne Hampshire and Councillor Eddie Thomas. Members. We move on then to Optivo Kent General Panel. We have 1 position but 2 nominations. So firstly, Councillor Mike Dendor, those in favour? oh, sorry, Councillor Mike Dendor and Councillor Glyn Whelan are the two nominations. Councillor Dendor. Councillor Glyn Whelan. So, Councillor Dendor, it doesn't seem it's your night. So, Councillor Glyn Whelan is selected to the Optivo General, Kent General panel. We then have Sheppey Matters. We have 3 nominations for 1 position. Those nominations are Councillor Oliver Eakin, Councillor Elliot Jays and Councillor Lee McCall. So those in favour of Councillor Eakin? Thank you, members. Those in favour of Councillor Jays? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Lee McCall? Okay. So after the first round of votes, Councillor Lee McCall is eliminated. So again, members, those in favour of Councillor Oliver Eakin? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Elliot Jays? Thank you, members. So after that round of voting, Councillor Elliot Jays is selected to represent us on Sheppey Matters. Councillor Beer.
In a similar vein to the Medway Maritime Hospital, I'd like to nominate Councillor Alan Horton for the Police and Crime panel.
Thank you, Councillor Dendor. Right, we'll take the Medway Maritime Hospital one first. There are 2 nominations for 1 place. The nominations are Councillor Angela Harrison and Councillor Pete Neal. All those in favour of Councillor Harrison? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Pete Neal? So Councillor Harrison is duly selected for the Medway Maritime Hospital. Right. So now we move on to the Police and Crime Panel. I have 2 nominations for, again, 1 space. The nominations are Councillor Richard Palmer and Councillor Alan Horton. Those in favour of Councillor Palmer, please show. Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Horton? Following those votes, members, thank you. Councillor Palmer is duly selected. We now just need to take a vote on the recommendations to agree those nominations.
Mr. Mayor, West Faversham Community Association.
Oh, my apologies, I did see that one. Hang on, what's more? Right, thank you, members. My apologies again. For the West Faversham Community Association, we have 2 nominations for 1 space. The nominations are Councillor David Simmons and Councillor Carol Jackson. All those in favour of Councillor Simmons? Thank you, members. And those in favour of Councillor Jackson? Thank you, members. So Councillor Jackson is duly selected. Right, so now, members, we move to the vote to agree the recommendations. All those in favour? Any abstentions? Anyone against? Right, okay. Right, thank you, members. So I now move once now the debate is over. I ask Councillor Baldock if he wishes to sum up.
Thank you all very much for that, and well done. So I do apologise. The Constitutional Working Group will look at this year.
Timetable of meetings. All right, there we are. Right, thank you, members. So we now move on to agenda item 15, timetable of meetings for 2022-23. I'd like to invite Councillor Baldock to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few words to say on this. Please support it.
And then I'd like to invite Councillor Horton to second the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was a bit struck, caught unawares when you suddenly jumped from 11 to 15, but I get it. I fully support this. Leaders have had the opportunity to work with their groups. We still need to sort out, we've got some scheduling, which is during the pre-election period next year. And there's in fact a meeting scheduled for the day before the election, which I think many of us will not want to participate in, but we'll get that sorted. And I just commend this to members and urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not for the first time. Could I request that in future there is more transparency over the draft programme of a timetable of meetings? I get it's a draft and it is likely to change, but there are some people who like to book holidays, and it does help them. Indeed, people who work, blah, 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 need to book time off. It does help if they have a rough idea of what the timetable is for the forthcoming year. It's just, you know, as I say, it's not the first time I've asked, probably about the 15th.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The comment's already been made, but I've not seriously been involved in producing this, and I appreciate how difficult it is. But to have meetings on the committee meetings on the 2nd and 3rd of May next year, I'm sorry, it just cannot happen. And I don't know whether it's appropriate to do it for now, but can I suggest that we amend the recommendation to say that it is approved with the exception of those two meetings. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Is that a proposal, Councillor Henderson? You would need a seconder.
It is a proposal, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we're going to do that, I think we'll probably have to remove the, go and do it now, we'd have to remove the rest of the meetings that would be scheduled before committees actually taken place after the election, because you'd have nobody on them.
I did second the amendment, Mr. Mayor, and reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Surely the obvious thing is that there's not much point in having a committee meeting between the election and annual council. Doesn't matter whether it's whichever committee it is. The new committees won't be established until the annual council meets. So it doesn't seem to me to be any point in having them on the 9th or the 11th, as well as the 2nd and the 3rd.
Right, so councillor Henderson, could I clarify your amendment, please?
My formal amendment was to say that we approve the recommendations with the exception of the dates of those two committees on the 2nd and 3rd of May. I'm not suggesting when they might be. I'm simply suggesting that we all know that they can't be on the 2nd and 3rd of May. Nobody will come to them. And the resolution can be produced later.
Right. Thank you, councillor Henderson. Does anyone else wish to speak on that amendment? Otherwise, I'll move straight to the vote. Councillor Whiting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did sort of reserve my right, but I take the point made by Councillor Simmons and others that actually the two meetings that are there for the 9th and the 11th, we will be unsure of the membership of those committees on the 9th and the 11th, following the election on the 4th and before full council on the 17th. So if Councillor Henderson would agree, I'd sort of kind of shift the amendment, as it were, to include those 4 dates, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 9th and the 11th, and we'll move those from the schedule.
Right.
I'll second that.
Hang on. I've got... Councillor Henderson, do you agree to what Councillor Whiting has proposed, or do you wish to withdraw?
I don't actually agree with what he's proposed, but I'll accept it as part of the amendment because it's really just clarifying that this whole period at the beginning of May is a nonsense. It won't work, and therefore let's get rid of it, and an alternative suggestion can come back later. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ingleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's only a technicality, but we won't have any councillors between the election and the first meeting. So you can't hold any meetings between the election and the first meeting. So those two will have to come out as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ingleton. Councillor Bonney, do you still wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hampshire, do you still wish to?
No, the amendment's been made that needed to be made.
Thank you. So we will move to the vote on the amendment that the dates of the 2nd and 3rd and the 9th and 11th are removed from the schedule to be reconvened at a later date. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? Thank you, members. That appears to be unanimous. Right. So, members, we now need to, after the amendment, we now need to vote on the substantive motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Abstentions and against? I have to ask. Okay. So finally, in closing the meeting, I need to advise members that at the close of the meeting, the chairman, vice chairman of committees will be elected. So please remain seated afterwards. Once we've completed that, there will be a light buffet and in the committee room, and drinks are available in the Mayor's Parlour. So I now hand over to the Chief Executive.
The first meeting to be held is a meeting of the Urgent Decisions Committee. Could I ask councillors Alan Horton, David Simmons, Roger Truelove, Mike Baldock, Ben J. Martin, Monique Bonney and Richard Darby to stand, please. Do I have are there any nominations for the chair of this meeting?
Yeah, I propose Mike Baldock, Councillor Mike Baldock.
And do I have a seconder? Are there any other nominations? Okay, those in favour of, you need a seconder, sorry. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so those in favour of Councillor Baldock, I know, but those in, okay, and I hand over to the chair to do the nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to council. I'd like to nominate Councillor Monique Bonney.
And you just need to vote.
Okay, are there any other nominations? In that case, I announce Councillor Bonney as the vice chair. Thank you for the meeting.
The meeting of the Regeneration and Property Committee. Could the following councillors please stand? Councillors Cameron Beart, Lloyd Bowen, James Hunt, Peter Marchington, Mike Whiting, Simon Clark, Angela Harrison, Roger Truelove, Sarah Stephen, Paul Stephen, James Hall, Eddie Thomas, Tim Valentine, Monique Bonney, Richard Darby. Are there any substitutions?
I'm substituting for Councillor James Hall.
Thank you.
And I will be substituting for Councillor Thomas.
Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'll nominate Councillor Monique Bonney.
Do I have a seconder? Do I have any other nominations? Those in favour? Any against? I now pass over to the chair to not do the nominations for the vice chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm looking for nominations. So for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Councillor Sarah Stevens.
Okay, and seconder, that's Councillor Ben Martin. Sorry.
3 years, eh?
I know. I am so sorry. Right. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. Okay. Are we all done on nominations? Okay. So we'll first of all we'll take the vote on Councillor Sarah Stevens. Oh, got that? Okay, thank you very much. And now take the vote on, sorry, Councillor Bowen, apologies. Right.
Do you want to close the meeting?
Yes.
So once
Councillor Stevens, thank you very much, and the meeting is closed.
Okay, the next meeting is the meeting of the Housing and Health Committee. Please could the following members stand? Councillor Anne Hampshire, Councillor Ken Ingleton, Councillor Pete Neal, Councillor Ken Pugh, Councillor Mike Whiting, Councillor Carol Jackson, Councillor Angela Harrison, Councillor Ken Rolls, Councillor Glyn Whelan, Councillor Elliot Jays, Councillor Richard Palmer, Councillor Ben J. Martin, Councillor Alistair Gould, Councillor Lee McCall, Councillor Bill Tatton. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'm substituting for Councillor Hall.
Oh, sorry, any substitutions? Sorry. Okay, apologies, both members. Do I have any nominations for chair? Councillor Martin, do I have a seconder for that?
Happy to second.
Okay, those in favour? Sorry, do I have any other, I'm sorry about this, I'm so sorry, I'll try that again. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Okay. Those in favour? Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, I now pass over to the chair to do the vice chair.
Thank you all. We'll remember my name eventually, guys. Any nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Angela.
Lovely stuff. Any other nominations at all?
Can I propose Mike Whiting, please?
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Lovely. So we'll take the vote. Those in favour of, well, unless there are any other nominations. Excellent. Those in favour of Councillor Harrison? And I'm relying on people over there to count because I can't see everybody. Thank you. And those in favour of Councillor Whiting? And I'm assuming. Yep.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. That is Councillor Harrison. At this point, we're going on to item 4. This is the only committee that gets an item 4, which is great, which is the election of membership of the Rainbow Homes Subcommittee. I have a pecuniary interest on this one, so will not be taking part and will hand back to the Chief Executive.
So this item is to confirm the membership of the Swale Rainbow Homes as Ken Ingleton, Mike Whiting, Glyn William, Angela Harrison, Elliot Jays, Lee McCall, Bill Tatton. Is everyone in agreement? And do I have any nominations for chair of the Swale Homes?
I'd like to nominate Angela Harrison as chair.
I'd like to second that.
Do I have any other nominations? Okay. Okay.
Can I nominate Gwyn Whelan, Councillor Gwyn Whelan?
Yeah.
I was already.
This is for chair. And do I have a seconder for the nomination of Glyn Whelan for chair?
No. I think there's been a bit of a misunderstanding with respect.
Okay, so I have two nominations, one for Councillor Harrison, one for Councillor Whiting. Is that correct? Okay, those in favour of Councillor Harrison? It is the committee that votes. And those in favour of Councillor Whiting? Councillor Harrison's been elected to the chair of the Swale Rainbow Homes shareholder panel. The next meeting meeting's closed. The next is the Environment Committee. Councillors Oliver Eakin, Anne Hampshire, Nicholas Hampshire, Pete Neal, David Simmons, Steve Davey, Julian Saunders, Tony Winkler, Sarah Stephen, Corrie Woodford, James Hall, Eddie Thomas, Tim Valentine, Denise Knights, Richard Darby. Please stand. Do I have any substitutes?
Apologies from Councillor Anne Hampshire.
Do I have any substitutes?
I'm substituting for Councillor Hall as well.
Okay.
And I shall be substituting for Councillor Thomas.
Do I have any nominations for chair of the
I'd
Environment?
like to nominate Julian Saunders.
Do I have a seconder for that?
I'd like to second that.
Do I have any other nominations? So could we vote please on Councillor Saunders for chair? Those in favour? Okay, thank you. If I pass over to Councillor Saunders to carry out the election for vice chair.
Thank you. I'd like to invite nominations for vice chair.
Happy to second.
Do I have any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate David Simmons.
Got a seconder? Yeah. Can we move to a vote then? Councillor Valentine? Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Simmons.
Eight six.
Okay, thank you. I declare that Councillor Valentine is the vice chair. Thank you.
Could you close the meeting, please, Chair?
Okay, I close the meeting.
Okay, the next meeting is a meeting of the Communities Committee. Could the following members please stand? Councillor Beart, Lloyd Bowen, Mike Dendor, Oliver Eakin, Nicholas Hampshire, Steve Davey, Tim Gibson, Ken Rolls, Richard Palmer, Elliot Jays, James Hall, Hannah Perkin, Alistair Gould, Lee McCall, Peter MacDonald. Do I have any apologies and substitutions?
Yeah, I'm substituting for Councillor James Hall.
Do I have any nominations for chair of the committee?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Richard Palmer, please.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Do I have any other nominations? Those in favour of Councillor Richard Palmer, please vote. Those against? Any abstentions? One abstention. I therefore pass over to the chair to carry out the elections for vice chair.
The election for vice chair, I'd like to nominate Councillor Elliot Jays as the vice chair of the committee. Any other nominations?
Could I second that?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
I wish to nominate Councillor Mike Dendor.
Okay. Any other nominations? So if we can have a show of hands for Councillor Elliot Jays. You got the numbers? Okay. And all those who are supporting Councillor Dendor. So, yep. So Councillor Elliot Jays is elected as vice chair. Thank you. And sorry about that, and I will close the meeting. Thank you.
Next meeting is meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee. Could I ask the following members to stand? Councillors Bowen, Dendor, Horton, Simmons, Whiting, Gibson, Saunders, Truelove, Baldock, Woodford, Carnell, Henderson, Valentine, Bonney and Tatton. Do I have any apologies or substitutions? You don't have to stand. Do I have any a nomination for chair, please?
Point of order. In the Constitution, it requires that the leader is the chair of PNR, even though I tried to avoid it.
So this has been checked out today, leader, and that didn't go into the Constitution. Although members of the Constitutional Working Group did express a significant desire that the leader of the council was the chair of PNR, the legal advice that we received was that that would be unsafe to have it just as a given. So therefore we weren't able to keep it into the Constitution. So the desire of the Constitutional Working Group was that the leader is the chair. However, that vote does still need to happen. So
I would like to make.
I'm happy to nominate Councillor Baldock as chairman of PNR.
I'll second
You
it.
don't get out of it that easily.
And there are no other nominations.
Okay. Yeah.
A little glimmer emerged.
So I have a nomination from Councillor Simmons, a secondary from Councillor Bonney. Everyone in favour? Okay, that's much more unanimous than Councillor Baldock was hoping for. So I pass over to Councillor Baldock to carry out the the election for vice chair.
Well, thank you all very much. I'd like to see if there are nominations for vice chair of the Policy and Resources Committee.
Could I nominate Councillor Monique Bonney, please?
Okay, we have two nominations. Can I see votes in favour of Councillor Horton, please? Okay, thank you. And those in favour of councillor Bonney, please indicate. Okay, I think I'm correct in saying that councillor Bonney has been elected as vice chair, and I close the meeting.
Thank you, Leader. The next meeting is for the Eastern Area Committee. If the following councillors could please stand, if they're able. Councillors Knights, Perkin, Gould, Valentine, Simmons, Henderson, Jackson, Saunders, Bowen, Whiting, Ben J. Martin and Thomas. Do I have any substitutions? We don't have substitutions on area committees. You're absolutely right. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Knights.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Valentine. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Okay, sorry. Okay, do I have a seconder for Councillor Henderson? Seconded. Okay, so those in favour of Councillor Knights? 8. Those in favour of Councillor Henderson? 3. Okay, Councillor Knights is elected. Pass over to Councillor. To do the deputy.
Thank you very much. If we've got any nominations for a vice chair of the Eastern Area Committee?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Saunders.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Is there any other nominations? Can we go to a vote for the vice chair being Councillor Saunders? Oh, yes. Yes. So the vice chair duly elected is Councillor Saunders, thank God. And I close the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, the next meeting is meeting of the Sheppey Area Committee. Could the following councillors please stand? Councillor Ingleton, Derby, Pugh, Bett, Fowle, Marchington, Eakin, Harrison, McCall, Jays, MacDonald, Neil, Councillor Sanger's not here, and Tatton. Do I have any nominations for chair? Councillor Beart.
I wish to nominate Councillor Ingleton.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. Do I have any other nominations? Those in favour of Councillor Ingleton? I'll pass over to any against? Abstentions? I'll pass over to Councillor Ingleton to carry out the election for vice chair.
Thank you. Do we have any nominations for vice chairman, please?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Beard.
Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. There a seconder for? Okay, any more? We go to a vote then. Those in favour of Councillor Beard? Thank you. Those in favour of Councillor Jays?
Councillor Ingleton, the chair has the casting vote as it's 6-all.
Thank you very much. I will do what I normally do with the casting vote, and that's stay to the status quo, which is Councillor Beard, who's the existing vice chairman. That concludes the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
The next meeting is the meeting of the Sittingbourne Area Committee with the following councillors please stand. Councillors Whelan, Clark, Truelove, Carnell, Dendor, Davies, Davy, Winkless, Hall, James Hall, Hampshire, Gibson and Rolls.
Apologies from Councillor Anne Hampshire.
Thank you. Do I have any nominations for chair?
Councillor Davey, please.
Do I have a seconder? Sorry. Winkler Wickens. Any other nominations for chair? Those in favour of Councillor Davey? That's unanimous. I hand over to Councillor Davey to undertake the nomination for vice chair. Councillor Ingleton, could you turn your microphone off, please?
Sure. Thank you, members. Can I have nominations for vice chair for the Sidbourne Area Committee? Anyone?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Can I have a vote on Councillor Dender standing as vice chair? Yeah. Thank you, members, and I'd like to close the meeting. Thank you.
We're almost there, members. Next meeting is meeting of the Western Area Committee. Could I ask the following members to stand? Councillors Clark, Woodford, Baldock, Nicholas Hampshire, Horton, Palmer, Hunt, Paul Stevens, Sarah Stephen and Monique Bonney. Councillor.
Apologies from Councillor Clark, although he is in attendance online.
I'm afraid he won't be able to take part in the vote, but thank you. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Woodford.
Do I have a seconder? Are there any other nominations? Those in favour? I'm afraid, Councillor Wood, it's not unanimous if you don't vote. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, I'll pass over to Councillor Woodford for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Could I have any nominations for vice chair, please? Thank you. Any seconder?
I'll second that.
No, thank you. I'll nominate Councillor Stevens.
And I'll second that.
Sarah.
Okay. All those in favour of Councillor Sarah Stevens? I think that was everyone, wasn't it? No. Okay. Any against? Abstentions? Okay. I announce Sarah Stevens as vice chair. Close the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. The meeting of the Planning Committee. Would the following members stand, please? Councillors Beard, Eakin, Hunt, Marchington, Simmons, Gibson, Jackson, Rolls, Winkless, Jays, Halls, Paul Stephen, Henderson, Ben J. Martin, Valentine, Bonney and Derby. Do I have any apologies?
I'm substitute for James Hall.
Thank you. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to sentence Councillor Gibson to another year, please.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Mike Henderson.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hunt. So, first of all, those in favour of Councillor... David?
You can, but we don't take it.
David? Yeah. You can indeed reject the nomination. Okay, so those in favour of Councillor Gibson? Okay, thank you. I will pass to Councillor Gibson for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor Elliot Jays as vice chair, not least of which has got much more hair than I have. Thank you, Councillor Bonney. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Beard.
I nominate Councillor James Hunt.
Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Councillor Marchington. Okay, so first of all, those in favour of Councillor Jays. And those in favour of Councillor Hunt? So Councillor Jays has been duly elected as Vice Chair. And accordingly, I close the meeting. Thank you.
Next meeting is the meeting of the Standards Committee. Could the following members please stand? Councillors Bowen, Clark, Nicholas Hampshire, Ken Ingleton, Davey, Whelan, Woodford, Jays, Perkins, Knights and Tatton. Are there any substitutions? Roger Clark. Are there any substitutions or apologies? Yes, you can. Do I have any nominations for chair?
Can I nominate Hannah Perkin, Councillor Hannah Perkin?
Okay. And do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
And do I have any other councillor?
Can I nominate Councillor Ingleton, please?
And I'll second, thank you.
Okay, so those in favour of Councillor Perkin, please vote now. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, would you like to make your nomination?
I'd like to nominate Elliot Jays.
Do you have a seconder? Okay, so we now have three.
I'd like to not accept that nomination, please.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So those in favour of Councillor Perkin? Those in favour of Councillor Ingleton? Okay, Councillor Perkin is elected. Would you like to continue with the meeting?
Thank you. Can I ask for nominations for Vice Chair, please?
Can I nominate Councillor Steve Davey, please?
Seconded.
Can I nominate Councillor Ingleton, please? Thank you.
And I'll second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can we have votes for Councillor Davey, please? And can we have votes for Councillor Ingleton, please? Thank you very much. Steve Davey is elected as Vice Chair and I close the meeting. Thank you.
Next meeting is meeting of the Audit Committee. Could following councillors please stand? Councillor Anne Hampshire, Marchington, Neil, Simon Clark, Harrison, Carnell, Henderson, Knights and MacDonald. Do I have any...
Apologies from Councillor Anne Hampshire, substituted by Councillor Nicholas Hampshire.
Do I have any nominations for Chair of Audit Committee?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Carnell, I was going to say Madam Chairman.
Do I have a seconder for Councillor Carnell? Do I have any other nominations?
I nominate Councillor Anne Hampshire.
I'll second.
Okay, so those in favour of Councillor Carnell, please raise your hands. 5. Those in favour of Councillor Anne Hampshire, please raise your hands. Councillor Carnell has been elected and continue the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Have we got any nominations for Vice Chair, please? Yeah. I would like to nominate Peter MacDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Councillor Mike Henderson.
Could we have a seconder for both, please?
Simon, second Councillor Henderson, please.
I'll second Councillor Henderson.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Great, isn't it?
Have we? Got second record. So, can we have a vote, please? Those in. So it's Councillor MacDonald advised.
The vote is for Councillor MacDonald at the moment.
And then who's the other one? Yeah. And vote for Councillor Henderson, please. Aye. Aye. Oh, yeah, I can, can't I? Sorry.
So, Chair, as it's 5-5, you have the casting vote between Councillor Henderson and Councillor MacDonald.
Councillor Henderson. So Councillor Henderson is the Vice Chair, and I now close the meeting. Thank you.
The final meeting of this evening is Licensing Committee. Could I ask the following councillors please to stand? Councillors Beart, Roger Clark, Dendor, Horton, Whiting, Jackson, Saunders, Whelan, Winkless, Carnell, Paul Stephen, Thomas, Gould, McCall, MacDonald. Do I have any substitutes or apologies?
Councillor Martin substituting for Councillor Thomas. He sends his apologies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Beard for chair.
Do I have any other nominations? Sorry.
Could I nominate Councillor Carnell? I'll second that, Councillor.
So we've got Councillor Beard, seconded by Councillor Whiting, and Councillor Carnell, seconded by Councillor Winkless. Those in favour of Councillor Beard, please. 6. Those in favour of Councillor Carnell, please. 9. 9. So that is Councillor Carnell. Would you like to continue the meeting, please?
Thank you. Could I have nominations for Vice Chair? The Licensing Committee, please.
Councillor Winkless.
I nominate Councillor Mike Dendor.
Right. Could we have a vote for Councillor Winkless, please? And Councillor Mike Dendor. Councillor Winkless is elected as Vice Chair, and I'll close the meeting, and hopefully we can go home.
Right, thank you, Chief Executive. Just before Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find it rather sad that we have a lot of seats on the Member Development Working Group that only 2 of the parties actually could be bothered to nominate for. This group is interested in our own training, development and understanding of what our duties are as councillors, and yet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups have got TBA. Now, does that speak volumes of what this council thinks about our member development? I really hope that changes between now and the next council meeting, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. And just briefly before Councillor Bonney.
Yes, so I'm nominating me for my group, just to let you know. I do accept it, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't spot this one in the email, but it will be Councillor Henderson for the Liberal Democrats.
Councillor Baldock.
I'd forwarded Councillor Woodford.
Councillor Valentine.
Yeah, I didn't see this in an email, but I'll nominate myself.
Okay, thank you. Any further nominations, comments? Councillor Henderson.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just a point. I hear the comment from Councillor Bowen and now the various proposals from different groups. I should point out that certainly I chaired this group for several years, going back a little while, and it was always a non-political group which did not seek to have balance. It sought to have those people who were interested in member development and hopefully knew something about it. So whether it remains right to have a representative from each group, I have to say I doubt, but we are where we are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Truelove, did you wish to make a comment? No. Okay. No. Okay, thank you. The members in the public, you're quite welcome to come back to the parlour and to partake of the buffet. Close the meeting now at 21:15. Thank you, members.